Time to turn our attention to Tech Watch, which is not the official name for any segment, but let's call it that because Nigel Phair's here from UNSW Canberra Cyber Centre. Thanks for your time.
Okay, Tom.
A few things to discuss. Why don't we talk about cyber attacks, because we do a lot of that. And there's a worry that there's going to be new big players into the state-sanctioned sort of attacks. Now, we always talk about China and Russia, but it could be Vietnam, Pakistan, Middle East. What are they doing here? Just getting in on the action and whatever happens, blackmail, bribery, etc.?
Well, it's interesting. So espionage is the norm. States have been doing it for decades and decades and decades, including your top-tier countries and your second-tier, all of your OECD top 20 has, decent espionage capabilities. Now that we spend more time in the online environment, they're moving their espionage activities into that. And traditionally it was your US, your China, your Russia that had the big, deep technical expertise. Now these next tier of players in the lower end of the OECD top 20 are playing in that space. And it might not be the greatest sort of technical capability, but they're learning fast.
Who's better, China or the US or Russia? Who would be the preeminent state?
I'm going to say US for two reasons. One is their technical depth, but they're also persistent.
Right.
And the others definitely have technical depth.
But the others get more notice because they're often in it for money or nefarious purposes. Do we trust the US, relatively speaking?
We 100% trust the US. As our Five Eyes partner and our security guarantor, we definitely trust them.
Okay.
And they play by the rules of the road, just like Australia does with international norms.
All right, good to hear. I won't rock the boat anymore on that. Is there any benefit with other countries entering this space? I guess from the sense of you never think a duopoly is good. So does it mean sort of China and Russia don't leap ahead, and is that good in any way, or is it just more nefarious activity and so worse?
I think it's a bit in the middle. It's just a lot more white noise. And remembering, countries do this sort of activity for national security and economic security. So if you're a mid-tier, up-and-coming middle power and you're starting to allow a lot of foreign investment into your country, there's lots of good reasons why you're going to want to eavesdrop and see what they're doing in their communications. Let's
talk 5G. Telstra wants a government campaign just telling everyone this is safe. What's the claim about this being unsafe all of a sudden? And I guess why would this be unsafe and 4G wasn't?
I think this is where we start getting back into the realms of fake news, but it certainly is out there. There is a lot of people talking about the bandwidth and what it means to the health of people. Nothing proven, but lots of scuttlebutt, lots of discussion around it. It will be a game changer, 5G. I think we'll be talking about 5G and subsequently 6G for at least the next 18 months, pretty solid.
6G. I'm not even ready for 5G. We're going to talk about 6G already.
Absolutely. It's going to be stronger, faster, better.
And so if 5G is a potential threat to the NBN, 6G will completely trump it, won't it?
That's the idea, yeah. So all we need is the infrastructure and the NBN is gone.
Why did we build the NBN?
Political pressure. This concept that we needed, originally fibre to the house, and we built a fibre to the node model with some other bits built into it, thinking that everyone needed super fast internet connectivity.
Well, look, even if you say they did, or the potential health benefits in some areas in the regions and so on, was there any inkling back when it was formulated, I guess that's 11 or so years ago, that you'd have 3, 4, 5, 6G, the speeds you'd get and the amount of data that would be able to go through those connections? Was that envisaged?
I think it was by your purist researchers, but it certainly wasn't part of the public policy discussion. And they probably knew that 5G was definitely going to be on the horizon, but at what cost, at what availability was probably the next question. And back then, we were just moving out of dial-up, and so we had this concept of the cable to the home, the fibre to the home.
If you could go back, benefit of hindsight, and you knew what was coming with the Gs, as I might dub them now, would you just have said, look, we'll keep scrapping along with that internet that we've got, it's not worth the money, and we can maybe have a government subsidised scheme once 5G hits or something like that? Would you do that? Or
I think with hindsight you would. And a lot of people had pretty good speed just from their old copper cable with ADSL 2+.
Yeah.
You're able to stream. People like streaming movies and sport and music. You're able to do that. You can't do it with multiple devices, admittedly, and there has been that enablement. But it probably wouldn't have been a bad public policy call to say, we'll be laggards for, let's call it a decade, but we'll get into the 5G and build that out really strongly.
Oh, well, what's a few tens of billions of dollars anyway? On that cheery note, just finally, digital platforms are pushed to regulate them like banks. So what does that mean exactly?
Well, the concept is we've had a global banking regime, particularly since the 9/11 crisis, now for, call it 15 years or so. And that's around terrorist financing, anti-money laundering legislation, which we've seen with the banks recently, falling foul to that, and the Know Your Customer regime. So banking is a global thing, and you need all the banks to play. The internet is essentially a similar thing. It's a global construct, but it's national laws are what is deciding who should do what. And you have some big global players, your Facebooks, your Amazons, your Googles, your Microsofts, etc. So we probably need a better global regime to keep them all in check.
But won't it be a case that the ones that are based in countries that agree with having that global regime, i.e. a lot of the ones in the US will do that, others if they come out of China and Russia won't? Is that realistically what's going to happen?
Realistically, and in the middle we're the Europeans that have none of those.
Right.
And they're the ones that sort of don't like a lot of what's going on because they haven't been able to innovate like the US has, because our big sort of 4/5 tech companies are US, and then you've got your two big Alibaba and Tencent coming out of China. Europe have got nothing, and they're a big...
Well, what's their choice? Can they just make sure all of their citizens use the US stuff and everything will be okay for them, or do they get impacted regardless from the Chinese?
I think culturally they don't like either.
Right.
And that's their issue. But they haven't had a company that's come out and grabbed that market attention.
All right. Well, watch this space. Nigel Phair, thank you.
Thank you.